Rockin' Larry Lockin' with Pleiadian Express Productions, your host with the most from coast to coast, giving up all the toast, giving you coolness, hotness, and everything you want in this. Hey, look, I'm going to totally go in on this right now. People in America, okay, I'm going to go in on this. All right, we need to get rid of and dispel this notion that a lot of white people still have, that African Americans, that they're only great entertainers, they're only great athletes, they're only great, comedians, they're only great at sports, whatever it may be. Look, and there's bad people in every race, okay? But look, every African American I've ever known throughout my professional life, they were the most giving, loving, soulful people you could ever have. And let's forget about all their physical talents for a second, okay? They're also the greatest scientists, lawyers, doctors, entrepreneurs, articulators, leaders, directors, okay? And keep in mind, a lot of them people, you white people, have all had privilege. Okay, I don't care how poor you are as a white person, you've had privilege. Most of these folks in that community had to grow up with second and third rate textbooks, second and third rate desk to sit in, every fucking obstacle you could ever imagine being put in their way. And it's not just that. The thing about it with African Americans in this country, okay, they have to live. It doesn't matter how successful they ever get, and they all are, okay, in their own right. But no matter how successful they get, they're still going to have to live with that in their innate, in their DNA, the absolute horrible kidnapping and genocide that happened to their race. And people may say, well, that was a long time ago. Let's just forget about it. Let's just move on. Bullshit. It wasn't even that long ago, really, in the span of time, okay, that they were fucked over like that. All right? And let's put aside, too, the white rednecks that live in this world who are racist, call them names, commit violence against them. The majority of white people in America are still complicit because they have this attitude, let's just forget about it. Let's not play the race card. Oh, let's not teach critical race theory. Oh, let's just forget about it. Kumbaya, let's move on. Bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. That's just the most insensitive thing you could do. It'd be like this. Look, I've talked to people before, white people, endless conversations that are like, well, my family never owned slaves. We came over here after that stuff was over with. Yeah, well, so did mine, but here's the deal. That's the most callous thing you could say and the most insensitive fucking thing you could say. You have no idea. Try living with that shit on your consciousness of what was done to your ancestors, how you had your names robbed from you, your culture robbed from you. You shackled, you chained, you beat, you lynched. I mean, used as fucking slaves. And then you still got these people that come up with this bullshit like, oh, well, they had a good life as slaves. Ho, 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 ho. What a bunch of crap, people. Look, I'm sorry. African Americans deserve reparations. Okay? It's the very least we could do. And no, that's not going to fix what happened. Okay? But they deserve that kind of compensation for what they had to go through. All right? And again, this whole notion that they're just great athletes and great dancers. Yes, they are. Of course they are. America would be a very, very, very vanilla, pale, crusty, white, boring fucking society without them being in our lives as far as entertainment, acting, joking, comedian shows. It'd be, and they're dancing. It'd be very fucking boring. And we'd never win that many Olympic sports without them either, okay? So, but that all that shit, we know that's true about their talents. But like I said, when given a fucking quarter the chance that most white people are, right? They are better scientists. They're better teachers. They're better articulators. They're better entrepreneurs, leaders, spiritual advisors than we could ever be. Now, and this is something I've talked about with a lot of African Americans over the years. The one thing that makes me sad and puzzled is that you do have a very, very tiny percentage of that segment that I don't know what the hell they're thinking. They have sold out. They follow a conservative movement of politics, right? The same kind of conservative movement that is supported by the Ku Klux Klan and shit. You know, you've got Clarence Thomas, a Supreme Court justice. You've got like Governor Tim Scott or Senator Tim Scott out of South Carolina, and this other clown, Byron Donaldson, out of Florida, that are totally marking themselves out. And why those few do that, why they want to get up there and cut a jig for a race that is totally sold out and fucked their DNA. Okay, I don't get it. I really don't get it, man. And I've had it explained to me by some African American contacts I've had before. I've had it explained to me why they do that, you know, that it goes back to even slavery days. You had a few members that would sell themselves out and, you know, suck up to whitey. You know what I'm saying? It's really the most disgusting thing. And like I said, we know the rednecks that fly those Confederate flags when they're driving and all that shit. You know, that treason rag, that Confederate flag, which I call a treason rag because that's what it is. You know, we know what pieces of shit they are, but it's the complicity of most white people that just want to live and let live and forget about it and move on. We can't move on yet. We still have a lot of work to do to make it right, and we'll never be able to make it right, okay? We just really, but we need to keep working to try to, all right? Eventually, America being the melting pot it is, when we can all have our fucking shit together, every race in the country, we will blend and make one beautiful race together, and everything will be cool. But we're so many lifetimes away from making that happen. But you know what? Wake up, white people. And here's another thing. This is the telltale sign. I'm going to give you the telltale sign and how you can tell that somebody's racist, that a white person is a racist against black people. You'll be talking to them about an issue. And forget about that comment of, oh, my family never owned slaves. Why do they have a problem with me? Here's the telltale sign, what they'll say. I have many African American friends. I don't give a fuck who you are. You're a complete bigot if you say it like that. All right, and even worse, the only other alternative is that you're completely ignorant of the situation. And if that's the case, you're even more complicit than somebody who is a total out and out racist, okay? It's about awareness. It's about consciousness. I'll give you an example. Anybody hearing this is, I'm an old guy, okay? I grew up in the 80s. On a Saturday morning, there was, on our small cable system, there was one channel that played American Bandstand, okay, with a racist host named Dick Clark. All right, so what you would see is a bunch of stiff white people just moving back and forth, right? And no passion in what they were really doing. You know, they might have tried, but white folks just don't have it in them. All right, but then on the other channel, there was a show hosted by a guy named Don Cornelius, and he was really spiritual. It was called Soul Train. Man, I'd see people doing the electric boogaloo, moving in and out, grooving with soul. Again, shit that most white people can't do unless you're Patrick Swayze, Fred Astaire, or maybe John Travolta in his day. Okay, it doesn't fucking work that way. And this thought of we just need to move on, quit teaching critical race theory, yeah, that's all great at one point someday, but we've got a lot of work to do, people. We've got a lot of motherfucking work to do. And, there's three things that have hit the shores of this country that have been disgusting, the most disgusting. The genocide that's happened to Native Americans, that was one, and stealing their land. What we did to the African Americans as white people, our ancestors, was even more fucking atrocious. That was a genocide. And then the other one was white organized Christian religion. And look, I even believe in Christ, but the organized religion is a bunch of bullshit, unless the only time I found it real spiritual is when I ran into several African American pastors that were spiritual. I'm not talking about the Uncle Tom ones that sell themselves out and mark themselves out for the white guy. Okay, I'm not talking about those. Okay, see, we know what's in front of us. We know the bigots. We know all that shit, all right? Okay, we know that. But white people that don't want to think about this shit, okay, they're the most complicit in all this. And like I always tell people, I don't have a racist bone in my body, although only I do. But here's the irony of it. I'm a fucking complete pale white Scandinavian dude. And I do have a problem with one race. I really fucking do, people. And it's ironically the white race. So, yeah, get with it. Dispel this notion. Okay? We really need a black female president to run this country. And not one of the small percentage of them that may be marking themselves out for the conservative movement. Now, I'll touch on one last thing. If you wanted to go there politically, you might get somebody say, well, what has the liberal side ever done for African Americans? I'll tell you what they've done. They've allowed them to be able to vote. They've allowed them to be able to afford housing, health care. You know why, though, there hasn't been more done? Because American white people have been so stupid that they've elected conservatives to the House and Senate. So anytime somebody like Barack Obama was trying to make a difference, or other people like Bill Clinton, were trying to make a difference, or Jimmy Carter, John F. Kennedy, you name it, Lyndon Johnson, who, by the way, got the voting rights for African Americans passed. Okay, they've always had to deal with this House and the Senate of conservatives that have been nothing but white racist obstructionists. Now, here's another thing you might hear. People will say, well, the Democratic Party, they created the Ku Klux Klan. No, I'm sorry, they didn't. It was a group called the Dixiecrats that used to be associated with the Democrats. It was a Southern contingency that the Democratic Northern Party finally got rid of, okay? And those people all became what is known as modern-day Republicans. All right? That's how it went down. People, I hate to tell you, the proof is in the pudding. Why don't you, and look, my 3 kids, I love them all, but I would bet, and I don't say this like, I would bet their lives on it. You go up to any member of the Ku Klux Klan and you get them to tell you what party they support, what political persuasion they support, it's going to be the Republican Party, or maybe even something more sick and radical, but it's not going to be liberals. So get off that bullshit if you've ever heard that rumor. But yeah, we've got a lot of work to do, people. We still have a long motherfucking way to go.